Mr. Chairman. I don't really know where to begin. So we're going to start with a few questions. I got a little quiz for y'all. So we've been talking about the right to vote. I just need a yes or no from each of the witnesses, and we'll start with Ms. Weiser. Is voting a constitutionally protected federal right?
Yes, it's constitutionally protected through multiple provisions.
Okay. Ms. Evans, yes or no?
Yes.
Mr. Spies, yes or no?
Yes.
And Mr. Cucciolini, yes or no?
It is constitutionally protected.
Okay, thank you. We've heard a lot of talk today about things such as buying alcohol. Ms. Weiser, is alcohol a federally protected constitutional right?
It is not.
Ms. Evans?
It is not.
Mr. Spies?
No.
Mr. Cucciolini?
Cuccinelli, you need an ID to buy it, but no.
Okay, all right. And finally, we like to talk about guns, or at least some people in this building love to talk about guns. Guns, is there an amendment dealing with guns in our federal Constitution?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Spies?
Spies, yes.
Spies? And yes, sir.
Yes, there is, and you need an ID to buy it.
Okay, so let's talk about it. So I hail from the great state of Texas, and what's interesting to me is we always want to talk about privileges and compare what is required for a privilege versus comparing what is required for a constitutionally protected right under our federal Constitution. And it's interesting that in this chamber, we love to talk about the Second Amendment, and we want to make sure that everyone has guns, and we only have one amendment in our Constitution that deals with guns, and it's the Second Amendment. And Professor Weiser, you were just about to say we have multiple provisions, so you were messing up my test a little bit. So I'm not gonna let you answer the question. I'm gonna go down here to these experts. Let's start and go the other way. Do we know how many amendments actually address voting in our Constitution?
Well, it depends how you count them, but you could say 3, 5th,
Okay.
14th, 15th,
Okay. Mr. Spees?
plus the DC amendments.
And maybe first.
Yeah.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Okay, Professor, go ahead and break it down.
I believe it's 6.
There we go, there we go. So we got the 14th, we got the 15th, 17th, wait a minute, did I mess up? 19th, 24th, and 26th. There we go. All right, so we have 6 amendments.
23rd.
And 20.
And every time we dealt with an amendment dealing with voting, we were expanding upon access. Is that not correct?
That is correct. That is the history of this country. Expanding
Okay.
access.
The history is to expand, but obviously there are some folk that want to rewrite history and make sure we go back in time. So let's also talk a little bit more about history for a couple of seconds. There was this little thing called the Voting Rights Act. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I am.
Are you also familiar with this thing called Bloody Sunday?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so are you familiar with the fact that there are black folk that died in this country to make sure that black folk had access to the ballot box?
Yes, that is correct.
Are you also familiar with the fact that probably around 1913 or sometime around there was maybe a women's suffrage march?
Yes, yes.
And that was a fight, again, for women to have access to the ballot box, was it not?
Yes, it was.
Okay, so we have had throughout history these fights to make sure that everyone is accessing the ballot box, but seemingly when it comes down to, say, guns in this country, which are the #1 killer of children in this country, we haven't had half as many hearings about guns as we've had on voting rights. And every time we seemingly have a hearing on voting rights, we're talking about the fact that people are cheating. So let's talk about who's cheating. I got a few articles. Are you familiar with the fact that there was recently a settlement with this little news company called Fox News?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That was for about $780-something million. Was it because they were lying about the elections?
Yes, it was for a.
Okay, there we go. I'm running out of time, so I'm gonna keep going. There also was this article, because I don't want us to base anything on Georgia at all. Please, Jesus, not Georgia. Okay, because Georgia purged 87,000.
Will the
votes
gentlewoman
that
yield?
should
I
not-
think
will
Georgia
not- I
matters.
will not yield. I am reclaiming my time. All right, so there were 87,000 people that were purged that were legitimate voters. So no, we don't want to copy off of Georgia. Also, another GOP voter admits he committed fraud. Another one in Pennsylvania, man who admits he voted for Trump with his dead mom's name because he listened to too much propaganda.
The gentlelady's
Jasmine
time has
Crockett does is not only stick to facts and truth, she's very good at triggering, I think that's the word, and getting underneath the skin of people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. This moment is brilliant. By the way, if you've got a second, press the thanks button and buy my team a coffee, $1.99.
Thank you, Mr. Grothman. The chair now recognizes Ms. Crockett from Texas.
Oh, okay. All right. So most everyone up here on the other side of the aisle has endorsed a person that has been found liable for sexual abuse of women to be our president of the United States. But we are going to talk about how this party is going to protect women. Protecting women, what exactly does that mean? Are we going to talk about sexual abuse? Because we can get into it, because we do have some real conversations that we can have about it. Considering the fact that we're currently in the middle of, say, a war, there's been allegations of rape being used in war. Seems like maybe we could have a few conversations about what it would look like to prevent that, what it would look like to maybe go and get those hostages out, maybe go and send some money to our allies. It looks like we could do something of value, but let me tell you, this session, we have set so many good records. One of those records was we've had a record number of people that have retired or announced their retirements in the month of November from the House. And from everything that I hear, it's because this body has become completely unserious. But we do have serious issues, especially when it comes to women. So let's talk about what it looks like to protect women in this country. When lawmakers like this are so far out of touch with what women need, we see states pushing back, at least states that will allow you to push back. I'm from the state of Texas, and of course, they don't want you to ever have an opportunity to raise your voice in the state of Texas. In fact, Ms. Perry, I know your organization, the Heritage Foundation, loves Texas. Ooh, they love Texas. They always sending us some nonsense bills that somehow set this country on the wrong trajectory. They send them to Texas. They send them to Florida. Every deplorable state that we can think about, they usually coming out of y'all's think tank. But nevertheless, when we talk about protecting women, what we've seen is, say, in the state of Ohio was one of the most recent states when their lawmakers didn't have the courage to do what they needed to do because, of course, we believe
Point
in
of order.
gerrymandering. And because we believe in
Point of order.
gerrymandering in this.
Point of order. I moved to
Please stop
strike
my
her word.
time.
I moved to strike her words, deplorable states.
That's not a point of order. Let the gentlelady proceed.
I
The
need
committee
my-
will suspend. Whoa, 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 whoa. The committee will suspend. Just hold, slow. What do I say?
Hell, I ain't even named her state. I named mine. Maybe states have personhood.
So I'm prepared to rule, this is not a statement, a deplorable state is not a statement against a person, or it is not engaging in personalities. So I'll continue and you can reclaim your time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we saw recently what the state of Ohio did when their lawmakers refused to listen to them we also have seen what the state of Kansas decided to do. When it comes to protecting women, it seems like the only people that are standing up for women on an everyday basis are the people themselves, because they're elected officials that somehow get into these positions in a gerrymandered way. They don't seem to represent the interest of the people. But let me talk to you about something that is very real in this country, and that is unhoused people. And I'm sure that while we don't have an expert on the matter here, many of you may not recognize that the majority of the youth that are actually unhoused in this country are members of the LGBTQIA community. When we look at mental health issues in this country, if we care, because I done heard terms that I never thought I hear certain people say up in here. We done heard about equality. We done heard about regressiveness. We've heard about civil rights. I can't get the Voting Rights Act passed. We've heard we need to follow the science. Are you kidding me? When we're sitting up here talking about anti-vaccine and all this nonsense. But let me tell you about somebody that I love very dearly, who has struggled and suffered because of the ignorance that continues to be perpetuated, which is not what is in the will of the people. Young Libby, who has been my constituent for far too long and gone through too much in the state of Texas. At the age of 7, Libby started testifying down at the State House about the bathroom bill. I think that was a Heritage Foundation situation as well. Started testifying at the age of 7 about how it made her feel. Then ultimately, Libby has been testifying, and at this point, Libby is 13 years old. And I'm gonna tell you something. I know that it was characterized as, oh, this is the cool thing to do, and maybe people are encouraged to be trans, and so they don't want to speak out. And now that it is not the easy thing to do. When you have to sit here and prove your personhood every single time that you're walking around. You got people that feel away because they losing in the sport. And listen, the trans person, it don't sound like even came in first from what I could tell. But nevertheless, I think we need to focus on real things that are real issues as it relates to women. If you care about women, let's get the ERA passed so we can have equal rights. Let's make sure that we fully fund access to reproductive health. Let's make sure that we are protecting those that are being raped, because they're being raped in this country as well as abroad. And this party has decided that even if you're raped and you're a child, guess what? You shouldn't have access to reproductive health care. That is not protecting women, and I will yield.
Thank you. Before this gets even more out of control, I'm going to try and reel it back in.